Welcome back to Wednesday night Chassidus Shir taking place on Thursday. Wednesday night Halacha and Chassidus taking place Thursday night. We're going to do similar to what we did last week. Oh, good. There, speaking about tzedakah, he brings the pushgoer, Hashem, help the base Chabad. So we're going to continue the theme of last week, which is exploring the halachos of the Beis Hamikdash, being that it is during the 3 weeks, 3-week period of mourning. There's some more source sheets of it if you want. And there is a custom, not a custom, but a custom to study the laws of the Beis Hamikdash during this period of 3 weeks. It's a period of mourning, but we're going to try to focus on the good stuff here and learn about the Beis Hamikdash, and that's Hashem like we did last week. And so we're going to explore. Oh, I need a sefer over here. I'm going to be too. This, which ones, whatever. So I may need these. I don't know. We're going to explore Rambam in the Hilchos Beis HaBechira, the laws of the Beis Hamikdash. This is a sikha from the Rebbe, which is similar to what we did last week, and it's going to have a halachic analysis. So hopefully we can health cup, as they say. Hopefully we can follow the analysis, God willing, and then we're going to conclude with Chassidus, offering another layer of understanding of the halacha on a Chassidic interpretation rather than a halachic interpretation. So let's just jump right in. Here we go. As the title says, Siyum Hilchos Beis HaBechira LaHarambam. So this is the conclusion of the Beis HaBechira, the Rambam, the halachos, which is there are 8 prakim, 8 chapters. This is not the entire Sefer Avodah. This is just Hilchos Beis HaBechira, the laws of the Beis Hamikdash. There are many other halachos that speak about the different utensils in the Beis Hamikdash, the different laws of who can enter the Beis Hamikdash, who cannot enter the Beis Hamikdash, and so on and so forth. We're just focusing really on the last 2 halachos here in chapter 8 of Hilchos Beis HaBechira, the laws of the Beis Hamikdash. I probably should have printed them out in English, but didn't get around to that. At the end of the last chapter, as I mentioned, that's chapter 8, in which the Rambam discusses and explains the laws of guarding the Beis Hamikdash, which, how about that for a coincidence? That's something that we learned last week. The mitzvah of guarding. I hope you remember a little bit from last week because we're going to be tested on it today a little bit. The Rambam explains the laws of guarding, standing watch over the Beis Hamikdash. After, in chapter 11, the Rambam explains the process by which the Koyanim would do a bedika, a check. They would examine. They would go around with avukos, with torches in their hands. It was the morning. It says in the Rambam b'shachar, but the Rambam says b'shachar koidim sheyala amud hashachar, before the sun came over the horizon, before the rays of the sun started to peek out. So they still needed the torches to see what they were doing, walking through the Beis Hamikdash and so forth. They would be carrying torches in their hands. Every day they would do this, as it says, b'shachar kodim shalom b'shachar samuch loi, right in close proximity to Amud HaShachar, which nowadays in Queens is roughly, well, many different opinions about how to calculate Amud HaShachar, but something like 3:40 a.m. That was at least the time we put, I think, for the start of the fast. On Shivas B'Tammuz, I think we put on the schedule 3:44 a.m., but there's many different ways to calculate it, but in any event. So after they would go every morning and they would check, yes, kol ha'zara, in kol dover hu kara, or they would go around and make sure everything was as it was meant to be, everything in its right place, everything on the right, every book in the right space on the shelf, so to speak. Messiah Rambam ba'aloch b'fnei yud beis. The Rambam then concludes in a separate halacha, which is halacha 12, halacha yud beis, which is the final halacha of the Hilchos Beis HaBechira, chapter 8. It says as follows. This is what they did every night. They went around and they carried the flame, the torches, and they would go through everywhere. They would take keys where they needed the keys, the Rambam writes, and open up different gates and so on and so forth. The Beis HaMoiked, which we mentioned on Shabbat Tammuz, we learned a mission about it. And they would go then to the Azara, and then other Kohanim would follow, and they're carrying the torches. They would divide up into different groups. This is all Halacha Yud Aleph. I'm just paraphrasing outside what the Rambam writes. And the Rambam says, this is Halacha Yud Aleph, the penultimate Halacha in the last chapter of Hilchos Beis Bechira. They would go and they would check the entire courtyard. They reached another location. And then when they would reach the conclusion of their work of checking, they would say, Shalom. Remember this, we're going to come back to this. Shalom HaKoil Shalom. That's what they would say. How do you translate it? I don't have English translation here. Can I translate it? Shalom HaKol Shalom. No? How do you translate it? Nobody? No?
It seems redundant. Peace on all.
Everything's in peace. Everything's good. Okay. Then, in the last halacha of the Rambam, this is what they did every night. Same process, night after night after night. Really, it's really right before the morning. Okay. Except for Chutz Milele Shabbos, except for Friday night. Why not? Big Farbrengen Friday night. They didn't have time for it, right? No, wrong. Why? She'ein b'yodem or. How are you going to carry a torch on Shabbos? You carry a torch on Shabbos?
I'm sorry, we said we're using this in the morning, every day, before I'm on the shachar.
Yeah.
So why are we talking about Friday night? You should say it's not
Friday night, meaning Shabbos morning.
Shabbos morning, before the, okay.
Thank you. I said night.
To Friday night.
It's dark out.
For two reasons I said night. First of all, the Rambam says night.
Right.
The Rambam says Kazeder Zoyz B'chol Laila. Secondly, technically it is night. If it's before Amud HaShachar, it's still technically night.
Right, but it's not Friday night. That's what threw me off. I was thinking Erev Shabbat. Yeah.
But maybe they were still not bringing the whole night Shabbos.
Right. Okay.
It's like when you go to, if you have oil for Shabbos ever, when you wake up early Shabbos morning, sometimes you see people walking the other direction. You wonder, like, they're going to sleep now? They were up the whole night for bringing, or they're just... Okay, we'll leave that aside for another time.
For bringing.
So why don't they do this on Friday night, aka early Shabbos morning? Simple. Would you carry a torch on Shabbos? Of course not. Why not? Huh?
It's muksa.
Muktzah. It's muktzah. She'ein b'yodem orela burgin b'neiris had delukin shomer Shabbos. They would rather plan in advance. They got long candles, I guess, tall candles, big candles, I don't exactly know. And they would light them obviously before Shabbos and place them strategically wherever they knew they were going to need some light. And this way, they still did the badika. They still went around and examined and checked up on everything. They have to say shalom akol shalom. They have to go through and check everything, make sure everything's in its place. They just didn't carry torches. Why not? Muksa. What do they do instead? You still need to see. Simple. In advance, they would light candles that I guess were enough to burn through the night. That's what they did. And that is the conclusion of the Rambam Hilchos Beis Bechira. The Mefarshim ask a question on this, and the question is as follows. It's a fairly obvious question. Harei ein shvus b'mikdash. There's a halachic concept that rabbinic laws, aka in our context shvus, don't apply in the Beis Hamikdash. And the prohibition of lighting a fire on Shabbos is a doraisa. You're not lighting a fire here. They're not lighting fires. They're taking torches, which were lit before Shabbos, and carrying them through the Beis Hamikdash. That is a rabbinic prohibition of muktzah. Muktzah is d'rabbanan. It's rabbinic, a shvus. So why can't they carry torches on Shabbos? What's the problem? Ein shvus b'mikdash. A rabbinic prohibition does not apply in the Beis Hamikdash. So what's the problem? Why can't they carry torches on Shabbos? Not a problem.
Maybe if went out, you'd be tempted to light it again.
Or extinguishing.
Extinguishing you for sure cannot do.
No, I'm saying so they might do that.
Why would they do that? Would you extinguish a candle on Shabbos?
If they're done
Of course not. If we're done?
by accident.
Okay, accidents happen. Accidents happen. You're right. It's a good point. It's a good point.
But that's a rabbinic prohibition.
Right, that's the
whole point of the rabbinic prohibition.
Right. But rabbinic prohibitions don't apply in Beis Hamikdash.
Yeah.
It's a question on the Rambam. It's not my question. It's not the Rebbe's question. The Rebbe quotes it. It's not the Rebbe's question either.
Because of mission.
Yeah. Kesef Mishnah, Tesis Yantiv, many ask this question. Okay. But the Rambam writes in numerous places, Ein Shavus B'Mikdash, that's the principle, that's the rule. Ein Shavus B'Mikdash, there's no rabbinic prohibitions that apply in the Beis HaMikdash. And moving on a candle on Shabbos is not Issa D'Oraisa, it's not a Torah prohibition, then it's a Shavuos, it's a rabbinic prohibition. So if in case, the question is, so why on Friday night, Shabbos morning, do they need to make a whole thing? Okay, guys, it's Erev Shabbos, let's make sure to light our candles before Shabbos, so when we're gonna do our Bedika, our examination, tomorrow morning, very, very early, we'll have candles. What's the big deal? Just carry a torch. Permissible? 100% permissible. So what's the problem? We don't have to be more from than the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch says it's mutter, so it's mutter. Whatever. You're more, you know more than the rabbis. What's going on over here?
Unless the issue is not muktzah.
Unless the issue is not muktzah. Okay. Let's see. The Kesef Mishnah, who, as Tzvi pointed out, the Kesef Mishnah, amongst others, who's the Kesef Mishnah? It's Yosef Karo, the author of the Shulchan Aruch. He has a commentary on the Rambam, and he asked this question, and he answers the question. He says as follows: Shiny Hocha, this instance of a potential rabbinic prohibition is different. So even though the rule is Ein Shvus B'Mikdash, please stop me if I'm saying things that don't make sense to your questions. Even though the rule is Ein Shvus B'Mikdash, rabbinic prohibitions don't apply in the Beis HaMikdash. Zok the Kesef Mishnah Shiny Hacha. This particular scenario is different. Why is it different? Because the Efshar Ben Eretz Hadukim Erev Shabbos, because you have another option. You don't have to carry a torch on Shabbos. There's another way around it. Light the candles before Shabbos. Mission accomplished, you'll have light. You don't have to carry a torch. You got another way to do this. That's the Kesef Mishnah's answer. Since there is a way to accomplish the same goal, which is to check, to go around and scope things out, and there's a way to do that without violating, so to speak, a rabbinic prohibition, even though it's not technically a violation. So good. So do it without violating a rabbinic prohibition if you can. And in this case, we can. That's the Kesef Mishnah's answer. Good? Not so good. This answer, we need to check it out a little bit. Why? If the Rambam, since we're talking about the Rambam, we could talk about the Rambam, right? In the laws of Yom Kippur, the Rambam writes another halach, and his halach is as follows: if the Kohen Gadol is very elderly, or he's ill, and it's going to be very cold, he has to go into the mikveh. They didn't have like nice fancy heated mikvahs like we have nowadays. He has to go into the mikveh 5 times in Kippur. It's all the avodah. It's very strenuous. It's going to be very difficult for an elderly kohen to do that. And to keep dunking in cold water. The mikveh is very cold. What do? You heat up metal till it's red hot on Erev Shabbos. And you dunk it in the water on Shabbos, which would be a rabbinic prohibition. Even though seemingly we have another way of going about this, namely, the Rambam himself gives other options. You can just pour some hot water in, and it won't be as cold. So we see in the Rambam himself that you don't necessarily have to avoid transgressing a shvus, a rabbinic prohibition. You don't have to. Even if there's an alternative way, you still don't have to avoid transgressing a rabbinic prohibition. Furthermore, Zois Void. Furthermore, Kosav Rambam. The Rambam writes, also in Hilchos Avodas Yom Kippurim, She'im bikesh kohen gadol lisnamnim. The Kohen Gadol, now I don't know if he's necessarily old or sick. He's just very tired, and he's
Can a Kohen Gadol retire?
retired.
Yeah.
I don't know if he retires exactly.
I'm saying this, he's not long enough to do the
Pass it on.
other.
If not well, if you can pass it on, if you can't do it, you can
I
pass it
think
on.
he can, that's not, so I mean,
Well,
so what
no.
happens?
The first mission, the second union discusses, not exactly, but that's talking about that you have to prepare another Kohen Gadol in
No,
case
no, that I know,
your
right?
wife and okay, let's leave it for now.
Yeah.
But yeah, if the Kohen Gadol is tired and he starts dozing off, what do? Pirchel Levia, Makin Lefana Betzat Tzreda. The young Levites come and they go smack, make a loud noise, which is maybe a prohibition of a musical instrument, perhaps. The loud noise, which is rabbinic, playing a musical instrument on Shabbos is rabbinic prohibition. Even though that itself is a shvus, that's a rabbinic prohibition. You can wake the guys up in another way, right? You have to smack with your fingers. There's other ways that you can just give him a little push, a whisper in his ear or something, whatever. There's other ways to wake him up. No. So we see, and there's other ways that he shouldn't sleep. I don't know. Again, make him a strong Turkish coffee. It's Eretz Yisrael after all, right? They make him a strong Turkish coffee and he'll stay up. Nevertheless, we see again a precedent that there's no need to avoid transgressing a rabbinic prohibition in the Beis Hamikdash, even if you have another option, you have an alternative. Base. Let's make the following remark, the following distinction. Thank you. Oh, let's get to the core of the matter. When we say that ein shvus b'mikdash, there's no that rabbinic prohibitions don't apply, they don't take hold in the Beis Hamikdash. Even if you have an alternative way to do that same task without violating a rabbinic prohibition, right? This is fact, halachic fact. But now let's qualify it. That's only when it's bo'ifan arai. That's only when it's a temporary situation. Something comes up, okay, so do it. Like, for example, the elderly Kohen Gadol or the ill Kohen Gadol. Okay, I knew you were going to be ill. I didn't know you were going to be ill. So it happens to be your rabbi or Mr. Kohen Gadol, and you're not feeling well today. Okay, good. So we'll transgress the rabbanon for you. The Haimekashim is dame matzav miyuchot shav l'sakon l'dishvus. It's only the only time we're going to say that you can transgress the rabbinic prohibition, even if you have an alternative method without transgressing rabbinic, is when something comes up, a scenario comes up that we didn't expect, and therefore we couldn't plan for it. We couldn't plan for this. So okay, so you can transgress the shvus, you can transgress the rabbinic. L'dugma, for example, like I mentioned before, the Kohen Gadol is elderly or ill, or he's falling asleep. Why? I knew you were going to fall asleep. Okay, Taka, there you could have had a coffee before. But to establish help me out here, a repeat process, day after day, or in our case, night after night, every single day, like clockwork, we're going to be relying on transgressing this rabbinic prohibition. Come on. This we could plan for. Yeah.
Why can't you plan for an old person? You know who's old.
Okay, but some old people have more koyach than others, and also you could say the same thing there. If it becomes a pattern, then maybe that's also a problem. The whole idea here that we're allowed to transgress the rabbinic in the Beis Hamikdash, we're saying right now, is only when it's temporary. It's like a one-off, but not regularly. Could also be the Kohen Gadol is elderly, so I don't mean to be morbid, but he's going to die. So next year there'll be a new Kohen Gadol anyway. So that's not considered kavua. That's not fixed. That's also a right. That's also temporary. So Hainish should be seder kavua and yochli is taleb shvus. V'rak b'mikin misuyom efshal izdaki leheter hazeh. So when do you take a heter? You take a heter every day? No. You take a heter when you need a heter. Right? Open up a Shulchan Aruch, right? You have this opinion, then you have Yeshonim, you have the Shach, you have the Taz, you have multiple different opinions. What are those opinions there for? Sometimes you have a heter. The heter is for use when you need it. Not you don't go to the heter. You start with the Iker halacha from the Shulchan Aruch. That's how you start. But then in certain scenarios,
So even though every day they might have been drawing the torches in, not Shabbos, every day, no problems, right? Even rabbinically. But Shabbos, you need to make, put them in the right place, find the place where you need the lights.
yeah, because
you're sort of going out of your way in a way to do that.
before Shabbos.
Yeah,
That's before Shabbos. But the question is, can you carry the torch on Shabbos? So now we're suggesting that this idea of Ein Shvus B'Mikdash, not so simple. You want to do it every single week? I don't know about that.
the one torch, let's say, went out by itself, a strong wind blew one of the torches out in the place you needed the light.
No.
You could then move the torch.
Okay,
on Shabbos.
okay, okay. Weiter. Like we're just saying now, Lou, that since now in our halacha we're talking about Seder Kavua, week after week, Shabbos after Shabbos after Shabbos, all year long. Since now in our new understanding of the scenario, we're going to be repeat offenders. Don't be a repeat offender, so to speak. So therefore, we have another way. What's the other way? Prepare candles before Shabbos. So simple. Avoid the whole thing. Shalom Yisrael. In such a case, we don't establish, we don't hammer in that this is how we check the Beis Hamikdash. Is every Shabbos we violate a rabbinic prohibition. You don't do that. Even though it's technically not a violation, technically, but we don't do that. You like it?
No.
No. Good.
Of course not.
Avol, of course not, right? Avol, einas borazem maspika. We're missing something. Something's lacking. What's going on? You want to say something?
No, I'm just thinking, I don't know, it's still okay to do it. It's not a problem to do it. So we're going out of our way not to do it, so it becomes almost like we are doing the rabbinic.
What do you mean?
We're going through the scenario, I'm just using the torch scenario.
Yeah.
We're preparing for Shabbat, just like we prepare at home for Shabbat. We turn off the refrigerator light so we don't turn the,
Good.
right? So we're preparing, but in the Beis Hamikdash, maybe you could open and close the refrigerator with an electric light all you want, because it's a rabbinic prohibition.
Okay.
So if it's okay.
Why
so
not do it?
What's the point of trying not to do it if it's okay? If something's okay, it's okay.
Okay, in other words, you don't like the answer.
I'm not saying I don't like the answer. I'm saying I
Not
don't-
to show. It's not up to us to like or not like.
Right.
It doesn't legt sich nicht up. It doesn't sit well by you.
Now, if you told me, you don't have to follow any rabbinic prohibitions, and I can make myself a chicken parmesan sandwich in the Beis Hamikdash, that might be a little ridiculous.
Okay, let's see. Avol einas borazem maspika. This is not a sufficient answer. Kimatzino heter shvus b'mikdash gam b'nidun the kavua. Because we're going to find in another completely different area of halacha where we do routinely, that's kavua, where we do routinely violate the rabbinic prohibition in the Beis Hamikdash. When? Pesach. When specifically? Erev Pesach Shcholis b'Shabbos, like it did this year. Erev Pesach that's on Shabbos. Mafshitin is ha'or shel hakorban al gabi ha'maklos. They mafshitin, they what's the word in English? They remove the skin. Flay.
Yeah.
Remove the skin of the korban on Shabbos. B'diuk k'maseu b'choil. Could have done it in a different way. So we see Seder Kavua that we're doing a rabbinic prohibition in the Beis Hamikdash. When? Pesach, Korban Pesach. You're going to say, oh, come on. It was 2025 we had this. The last time was 2020. The next time is 2045. Come on, that's not Kavua. Maybe that's temporary. No, it's not temporary, says the Rebbe. That's a doichik. That's a stretch to call that temporary. It happens to be, it doesn't happen on the calendar very often. But we're going to be kavua in our behavior of it. Every time that calendar situation arises of Erev Pesach on Shabbos, we're going to do the same violation. It's a doichik to say that's temporary. That's not temporary. That's a permanent practice that only happens from time to time. So we see a precedent that we could violate a rabbinic even b'kvius. Gimel. Now let's go back to the halacha and do a few general questions. Aleph, number one. Why does the Rambam bring this inyan of examining, of checking the Beis Hamikdash, behilchos shmiras Beis HaBechira, which, like we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we spoke about last week. Chapter 8 talks about the shmira. What does checking with the torches have to do with shmira? Shmira means Kohen and Levim stand watch on the edge. Why are they standing watch for? What are they protecting it from?
Covered.
Yeah, but they're protecting it from nothing. Covered. So why does the Rambam stick this in? He's talking all about shmira. That's chapter 8, shmira. Oh, by the way, get some torches down on Erev Shabbos. What's he talking about? What does this have to do with shmira? All the halachas up to there fit. They're all talking about they're all talking about shmira, guarding. These last two halachas that we are discussing have nothing to do, seemingly, with guarding, with shmira. What do they have to do with? How you get set up for the day. Before you start the avoida is not shmira. The avoida means the korbanos, right? Before you get started in the avoida, so walk around and make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. There's This seems more shaykh to Hilchos Tmidin Musafin, which the Rambam speaks about later, and Taka makes the same point that you have to go around and examine and check. So why does that put it over here for? Shmira. That's question number one. Question number two. Halacha achrona, Yud Beis, the last halacha. The last halacha, which says this is what they did every night. This is what they did every night, is clearly a continuation to the previous halacha, which told you what the Seder was. Go around with the torches. But the Rambam adds one nekuda, he adds 1 point. What is the 1 point he adds? Shabbos. Shabbos was different. So if that's the case, it's really the same, it's a direct continuation of the previous halacha. So why not just put it in one halacha? In Kain, why does the Rambam separate the Shabbos point into a different halacha? It's a direct continuation of halacha Yud Aleph. So make it all one halacha. Especially as is known that the Rambam divided his halachas with care and with thought and intention. Okay, so question number one, what does this have to do with Shmira Hamikdash? Question number two, why is the last halacha, which mentions the exception of Shabbos, why is that it's a separate halacha? It's a continuation of halacha Yud Aleph, which should just be all one halacha, instead of two separate halachas. Ready for the explanation? Let's go. Ready? You look ready. So you ready?
I was born ready.
Born ready. Habir Bazem. Rambam mevar b'tchilas haperek. So let's go back to last week's share. What did we speak about last week? Givaldik. The beginning of the chapter says, Shmiras Hamikdash mitzvah saseh. Guarding the Beis Hamikdash is a positive commandment. Even though we're not afraid of bandits and robbers, says the Rambam, as we discussed last week. The whole concept of Shmira has nothing to do with security. It has to do with kavod. That's our key. That's our key point. So we're talking in this chapter about covet. That's what we're talking about. You can't compare a palace with guards to a palace without guards. So what do we see from here? So the Rambam here in this chapter, chapter 8, the last chapter of Hilchos Beis Bechira, is talking about things related to covered the Beis Hamikdash. That's the topic. So based on that, we may suggest also going around with the torches and checking the Beis Hamikdash is also covered. That's why they're doing it. They don't really need to see if everything's in order. That's not really what it's about. It's pashut covered for the Beis Hamikdash. That's why the Rambam put those halachas in chapter 8. Even though we said seemingly they're more shaykh to the beginning of the actual avodah, and they would belong in Hilchos Tamidin and Musafim. But the Rambam puts them here because they're not shaykh necessarily to the avodah in the Beis Hamikdash. They're shaykh to the cover of the Beis Hamikdash. As follows. Right? It was a hachana also. Right? It did serve as hachana for the avodah, but that wasn't the main purpose. As is explained elsewhere at length. Shmira, watching, standing guard, shows that it's on your mind. It's something that you cherish. Like someone once asked the Rebbe, when he was already in his late 80s, I believe, how do you stand on Sundays handing out dollar bills to so many people for tzedakah for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours? You're an old man. Don't you get tired? Standing on your feet we would get tired. Standing on your feet for 7 hours, you're going to get tired. The Rebbe was already in his late 80s. So I asked him, don't you get tired? The Rebbe said, no. When you count diamonds, you don't get tired. So every Yid who walks by is a diamond. You get tired of that? You don't get tired of that. So the whole inyan of Shmira, of the covet, is to show how precious it is to you, how much you cherish it. So you go around checking everything to make sure, everything's good, everything's in order. You don't have hesach hadas. You don't I say hesach hadas.
Lapse in
You don't
Focus,
lose focus. On the Beis Hamikdash, stays bit locked and loaded. You're focused. Same thing with Badika. Every single day we go around and we make an examination and we check everything. That's covered. It shows how much we cherish it, how precious it is to us. How we don't have any hesach hadas. I didn't forget you. I'm still thinking about you. That's what it shows when we do Badika. Okay, it's also hachana. Fine. Now we can understand what I mentioned, the point I mentioned that you shouldn't forget. What do the Kohanim say when they finish with their Badika? They should say, Hakol Boduk, or Hakol Ra'ui, or Hakol Tov, or something like that. They should say, everything is checked. Everything's good. All systems go. They should say something like that, but they don't. What do they say? Shalom hakoil shalom. What does peace have to do with anything? They could have said hakol beseder. Everything's good. Everything's in order. That's what they should have said. Everything's in its place. Everything is as it should be. Because to say hakoil shalom hakol shalom is not so much about everything being in the correct place on the shelf. It's not so much about all systems go. It's a language of cover. Everything is peace. It's a language of cover. So we answered one thing. So what is the purpose of the Badika? Not the Badika. What's the purpose of Bedikas Chametz?
Make sure there's no comments.
Huh?
To make sure there's no comments.
What didn't to make sure there's no chametz for?
Because the Isser is, you can't have chametz over Pesach.
Yeah.
You know, over the.
So that's a different kind of bedika.
It's not for cover.
It's not for cover. No, it has a tachlis in and of itself. You're actually looking for something. You're actually trying to see, is Hakol Beseder?
It's for Bittul, the opposite. I'm kidding, it's a joke. Opposite of comedy.
That's the, okay, good, that's the previous, that's the. But this Badika is not so much for the Badika. This Badika is to show that we cherish the Beis HaMikdash. Show the cover of the Beis HaMikdash. Hey. Now we can get to another question. Question we asked about the last halacha. Why is it a separate halacha? I'm sorry, not why is it a separate halacha? That was the second question. Now we can answer about the last halacha, where he says chutz me'leilei Shabbos. They don't want to violate the rabbinic prohibition. Even though we said maybe it's because you don't want to do it in a way that's kavua. But some people at this table that they didn't sit so well with them. It's got to be something deeper here. Deeper in a halachic sense, I mean. So let's try to answer that now. Uvehektim. But we need to give a little intro to answer this question, to answer why would they not want to violate the rabbinic prohibition, even though they're allowed to. Like Lou says, you're allowed to do it, you're allowed to do it. I know it's not Hanukkah, it's the summer already, but when it comes to Hanukkah, right, the famous Gemara in Shabbos, they looked around and what did they find in the Beis HaMikdash? They found one flask of oil with the seal of the Kohen Gadol. I think Taisa says it was buried underground. It was enough oil, everybody knows the story, right? It was only enough oil to last for one day. Nice of a miracle happened, 8 days the candle burned. That's the story as we know from Masechta Shabbos. The Dua Shaila, there's a question on this. I have many questions on this. There's opinion in halacha that tumma, impure oil, or impure anything really, is hutra b'tzibur, is permissible when you're taking the entire tzibur into account. So in this case, we have the entire tzibur of Klal Yisrael. You want to light the menorah, need to light the menorah. The oil is tamei. So what? Tumma, hutra, b'tzibur. Impure oil is going to be permitted when it comes to, not for my personal purposes, but for the tzibur, for everybody. So if that's the case, then why do we need a miracle to get pure oil? Why does Hashem need to make a miracle that this one single flask of pure oil had to last for so long? What do you need a miracle for? Just use the flask of oil, which is pure. It'll burn out in a day. And then day 2, use impure oil. Is that permissible halachically?
Yes.
100% permissible. But no, God says, guys, let's make a miracle. Why? You don't need it. Matartzma is a Meforshim answer. That Afal Pishatum Hodra Betzibur, is the Pnei Yoshua says this. The Afal Pishatum Hodra Betzibur, even though Taki, it's true. That when it comes to the tzibur, we permit to use tamei things. Nevertheless, the Eibishter HaKadosh Baruch Hu had an agenda here. He had an agenda. What was the agenda? The Eibishter wanted to show how much he loves us, how much he cherishes us, how precious we are to him. Hashem says, I don't want you to have to rely on a heter. I want you to do things 100% perfect. Is there a heter? Yes. Is it a good heter? It's a great heter. I just don't want you to have to use it. I want you to do it in the best, most geschmack way because I love you so much. Zoy Meres, that is to say, the whole idea that Tumma Hutra B'tzibur is only regarding me. Regarding me, I'm allowed to use the Tamei oil in this scenario. Regarding me. But to show how much Hashem cherishes us, that's from Hashem's perspective. We want to stay away from Tumah, even when it's permissible. Is it permissible? Yes. Do we want it? No. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was demonstrating how much He cares for us, how much He cherishes us. So He made a miracle that we should not have to rely on the heter. See where He's going. Same thing in our case. What are we trying to show? This is not Hashem showing how much He loves us. This is us showing how much we love Hashem. This is us doing shmirah, guarding, showing kavod for the Beis Hamikdash. If the examination, if the checking, the bedika on the Beis Hamikdash was just for the purpose of preparing for the day's work, then we would say Ein Shavuos B'Mikdash. Heter, take your torches on Shabbos. Not a problem, 100% mutter. Right, like you said before, hey, it's permissible, no problem. But checking in the Beis Hamikdash is much more than checking. It's much more than seeing if everything is lined up and ready for the day's work to start. It's much more than that. What is it for? Kavod. It's for kavod. So let's do it in a kavodika way, in the most kavodika way. That's how we want to do it. Aber mir achshe bedika schon im kavod hamikdash. Hainu argoshas goydel kavod hamikdash. Vel derech lo min hamikdash ad yore le mish tzivol yidosay kemoy chein u gam regel kavod hamikdash. Velochin lo mazin bo zeh shebedika tiyam lechatchil bofen sheyizdak gule hater dein shus hamikdash. Therefore, in this scenario specifically, where the whole inyan is kavod for who? For the stones? No, covered for the Shekhinah. Covered for Hashem. We're going to show covered for Hashem. There ain't no heter in here. We ain't going to rely on heter. We're not going to do things even that they're permissible, but it's a heter. Ein Shavuos B'Mikdash? Yes. Not here. This is about honoring and glorifying HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're going to do everything just like Hashem did for us on Chanukah, in the best mahadrin, min mahadrin, best possible, most gishmaka way possible. No heter here. We're not going to rely on a heter. We can finish in the next 15 minutes. We might have to skip a little bit. Any questions, comments?
Just the heter, the idea of the heter.
Yeah.
If something is allowable, you don't ask for a heter, you don't get a heter, right?
What do you mean?
I'm not feeling well. I need a heter not to be able to eat on Tisha B'Av. So I go to my Rav and I tell him what's going on. He gives me a heter, says you're going to eat because you're sick.
Okay.
But this is not that kind of thing. This is allowable.
Yes.
So it's like, let's say you go to the Beis Hamikdash and you're allowed to eat on Tisha B'Av. That doesn't make any sense at all, but it's not because you ask permission. If I go to the Beis Hamikdash, I want to eat some Tisha B'Av. It's just, I'm allowed to do this. In this place, I'm allowed to do this. So it's not, is it a heter? That's
It's a heter because when the rabbis institute whatever rabbinic laws they instituted, how do you get out of that? We are obligated by Torah law to follow what the rabbis say. So how do you get out of that? Some people want to say that every D'Rabbanan is actually the Raisa. Because we're obligated minat Torah to follow the rabbinic laws. Okay, that's a whole other.
Well, you're not necessarily looking to get out of it. You're not saying, let's go to the Beis Hamikdash.
The issue is not looking to get, no, you're right. The issue is not looking to get out of it. You're right, 100%. The issue is, why should we lechatchila do things anything less than 100%? You could argue it's not less than 100%. You could make such an argument. But because in this particular area, the whole inyan is to show how much we cherish HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we're gonna do everything we can to do it the best, prime way, without having to go to a heter. Again, the heter is there. It's there for use. In all other areas in the base of Mikdash, the heter stands. It's only when we're trying to show the covenant of Hashem. We want to do things 100%, everything exactly the best possible imaginable way. That's how I understand at least what he's saying.
Why is it Oshvus Mikdash? Like, is there like a simple reason or it's complicated?
Has to do with the heightened kedusha, I believe. The base of Mikdash, person's more aware. Person's
There's maybe like an answer like what he's asking, because is it like a heter type of thing, like because it overpowers or something, or is there a different reason why?
again, once the Rabbanan establish a law,
Mhm.
you got to follow it. How are you getting out of it? You're not getting out of it. Once there's a din de Rabbanan, you're obligated to follow it. Elamai, in the Beis HaMikdash, there you don't have to.
No, but if the rabbis make a law and say this law applies here and not here, so you're not breaking the law. That's what he's saying.
Right, you're not breaking the law, and nobody's saying you're breaking the law. The question is, could we do it even better? Just like Hashem didn't have to break the law. I'm sorry, Hashem didn't have to make a miracle because we could have just used the impure oil. Great. What would Hanukkah be? How different would Hanukkah be? If we said, then we found the oil for one day and it lasted for one day. That'll be okay, by the way. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it. It's okay. And what'd you guys do the second day? What do you mean? We lit the tamei oil. You lit tamei oil? Sure, why not? Didn't you read Shulchan Aruch? It's mutter. Okay, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not kishmak. It's not chibur. It's not. It doesn't show how Hashem cherishes us in the same way. Okay, we would say we had a military victory in Hanukkah. We found the oil. We would say all sorts of things. Then we would darshan. Maybe we'd still have Hanukkah, but it wouldn't show the gishmak how much Hashem loves us. So similarly here, this is from our perspective. We want to show Hashem how much we cherish Him. So do we have a legitimate heter? Sure. Okay, to think about it.
We do it outside?
Huh?
We do it outside and so.
Yeah, let's
Maybe left hanging, right?
Yeah, I don't want to.
Shabbos.
let's see. Okay. Bob and Zion are a little bit side point, not exactly a side point, but we don't unfortunately have time to do all of it, so we'll maybe we'll do fast. Let's see.
Which is true.
Let's try to do ches on page Tadikeh. Let's try. Why does the Rambam put these in the Hilchot Beis HaBechira? The laws of the Beis HaMikdash, which we learned on Sunday on fast. Similarly, why does the Rabbeinu HaKadosh, it's Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, why did he put the laws of Shmiras HaMikdash and Masechtes Midos? Shinyano Midos Habayis, which is the whole concept of that Masechta Mishnayos is the measurements of the Beis HaMikdash. Okay, this is even too complicated. I'm sorry, this part is this Vav Zayin is too complicated right now. We just don't have enough time to go into this. Let's do tests. Sorry. Let's connect the end of Hilchos Beis HaBechira, which is all about, as we just discussing now for this last nearly hour, of the guarding of the Beis HaMikdash, the torches, with the beginning of Beis HaBechira. What is the beginning? But Tchila itself is Beis HaBechira, chapter 1, Kaveh Haram is Yidra Shal Mitzvah Binyan Beis HaBechira. The Rambam tells us what is the framework, what is building it all about? Lasso is Bais Lashem, to build it, or to lasso is to make it. But lo leave us, not to build it. Meaning that it should be. The mitzvah of building the Beis HaMikdash is not to build it per se. The purpose is there should be a bias. The mitzvah is not to build it per se.
Like not building a sukkah versus like to have the sukkah.
Good. Is there a mitzvah to build a sukkah? No.
Mm.
I think there's some people say you should say shechayanu when you build it.
Right.
But that's not the halacha. You don't say shechayanu when you build the sukkah because there's no mitzvah there.
Right, the mitzvah sukkah is to.
It's a shtivas a sukkah.
Right.
Although some people want to say there's no chiyuv to have a sukkah. So I could have my apartment and no sukkah, I'll eat in someone else's sukkah. But some want to say, no, really bad time you do need a sukkah. Why? Because the whole eating of sukkah is teishvu ke'ain taduru. The sukkah has to be in lieu, no pun intended, of your house. That was
You get that a lot, right?
As long as you say it's a gray area, then I.
The sukkah is teishu ke'ein taduru. So on sukkah is your house, is your sukkah. So you need a sukkah. I don't mean that as a halakhic statement, but such an inyan.
A goy can't build a sukkah, so it has to be something.
A goy can build a sukkah. Why
What
not?
about the sukkah?
For the schach.
Putting up the schach, which is that's the sukkah.
Let's finish.
That's the sukkah. Yeah, but okay.
That's not a mitzvah, to put the scarf up or else.
Which mitzvah is it of the 613?
A lot of mitzvahs that are in the sixth.
It's not Shmiras HaMikdash, that much I can tell you. Okay. So at the beginning of Hilchos Beis HaBechira, the Rambam says lasso is bayis, which means the mitzvah is not to build it per se. It's there should be a Beis HaMikdash in kol hapratim shabayis kazeh with all the details, whatever those details may be. And this itself was emphasized in the last halacha, as we mentioned. That's why Shmiras HaMikdash, listen to this, Shmiras HaMikdash is a part of Beis HaBechira. Ad l'sima in kefisha zeboli they beat the besim Hilchos Beis HaBechira shamachmash is a prat bebinyan bono Beis HaBechira. Since the Shmira shamachmash is a prat bebinyan bono the Beis HaBechira. It's a prat. It's remember the shmira is not for the avoida, the Beis HaMikdash. The avoida in the Beis HaMikdash happens only after the Beis HaMikdash is built. Building the Beis HaMikdash itself, shmira is part of the actual building of the Beis HaMikdash, so to speak. It's not part of the avoida. It's part of
The ikar of the Beit HaMikdash is not to have shmira. Ikar is the avoda,
Oh.
korbanot.
Oh,
So like you said, shmira is like the preparation. In order to have a mikdash, you need to prepare it. You need to build it, which is not a mitzvah, and you need to garnish for the color.
therefore, does building the Beis HaMikdash override Shabbos?
That's a Mashiach question. Can Mashiach come on Shabbat?
No, we should do a class on that, by the way, at some point, God willing. Mitzvah Shem will do a shir on that one day when they came to Shecham Shabbos. But no, Binyan Beis HaMikdash is not Doicha Shabbos.
Right.
So if Shmira is part of building, so to speak, the Beis HaMikdash, it's not part of the avodah that takes place in the Beis HaMikdash. Therefore, it's not Doicha Shabbos. I lost my place again.
The top.
Yeah. It's part of building the Beis HaMikdash. Therefore, it's not doiche Shabbos. It doesn't override Shabbos, even rabbinic, and therefore you can't carry the torches on Shabbos. Okay, for the last few minutes, let's say the Chassidus follows. Okay, ready? We don't have much time, so we're going to say the Chassidus now. we covered the basic idea, by the way, the Sikha. The basic idea is, again, to recap. What was the question? Question was, why can't we just carry the torches? It's a rabbinic, not a problem, not a problem. So we said, well, maybe it's because you could do it a different way. Okay. You could do it a different way, but there doesn't seem to be precedent to require us to do it in a different way. We give numerous examples that show how you don't have to do it in a different way. Just violate the shvus. It's not a violation. You're allowed to do it. So then we said the basic idea is because the purpose of B'dika is not B'dika. It's not like chametz. You're looking for chametz. That's not what's going on up here. The purpose of the B'dika is to show how much we cherish this place, how much we love it. We come in every morning and we go, yeah, this is the Beis HaMikdash. Let's walk around with torches and do that. So since the purpose is shmira, the purpose is covered, thank you. It's like how Hashem showed to us how much he cherishes us by going beyond, by making a miracle happen that the oil should burn so that we wouldn't have to lean into a heter. So we show how much we cherish Hashem, we don't lean into a heter, so to speak. And we do things, everything to the maximum, no violation of a shvus. That's the basic content of the Sifra. Now, Chassidus. Bira kesher da ascholas hilchos beis habechira v'siyum and pnimis ha'inyan. Kvar nizvar pe'omim. She'afal pi should have been in a mishkan of bayis edition v'sheni kimus a mitzvah deva also li mikdash. In the Mishkan, and in the first Beis HaMikdash, and in the second one, there was the mitzvah of also li mikdash, make a mikdash for Hashem. But there's still something lacking. There was something lacking in the Mishkan, there was something lacking in the first Beis HaMikdash, and there was something lacking in the second Beis HaMikdash, which is
Permanence.
They were all destroyed.
Right.
Something's missing over here. When will we have permanence? Mashiach. We don't need to answer could Mashiach come on Shabbos. We only need to answer could it come on Erev Shabbos. It's Erev Shabbos now, no? Okay. The Rebbe said to the Belzer Rebbe once, the Belzer Rav, that they were discussing could Mashiach come Erev Shabbos. And the Rebbe made some comment, I'm not quoting, but paraphrase, some comment along the lines that if Mashiach will come on Erev Shabbos and this takes a Jew away from his kugel, nobody's going to complain. So the shleimus, the completion, the wholeness of the Beis HaMikdash will be with Mashiach. Ze yufo b'mikdash Hashem k'nu yodecha b'bayis ha'shlishi. Shibais nitzchi, like Tzvi says. It's going to be permanent. The third Beis HaMikdash is going to be the last one. There's not going to be a fourth. The third and final shleimus. V'zel gam genatam ha'pnimi. That's the deeper reason, the inner reason. We've now left the realm of halacha. We've entered the realm of pnimius, of the soul of Torah. This is the inner reason. The This is why the Rambam concludes with checking, and he talks about Shabbos. What's Shabbos? Yom Shekula Shabbos. Shabbos is Mashiach. Shabbos is alluding to the Messianic era. The L'Rames Shasiyum. That's why the Rambam concludes with it. He's messiahing with Shabbos. Because what's the siyum of the entire Beis HaBechira? Mashiach. Shasiyum v'shleimus shal Beis HaBechira hu ba'mikdash she'yi lo asilav b'yom shekula Shabbos. That's why the Rambam, on a deeper level, not on a halachic level of interpretation, on a Chassidic level of interpretation, the soul of Torah, the reason why he's messiahing, he brings to shleimus, the inyan of the Beis HaBechira, with the inyan of Shabbos, is to hint to you about the inyan of Shabbos, the inyan of Mashiach, that's when we're going to have the shleimus of this Beis HaBechira that we're talking about. You're going to say, 1 second. Now you got me depressed. It's all about the third Beis HaMikdash. When's that going to be? We're waiting a long time for that already. They say a Meiser of Yol Khan, the Rebbe's Chayzer, the guy who memorized all the Farbrengens on Shabbos, was once standing by a bus stop in Williamsburg somewhere. And someone asks, waiting for the bus, waiting. Someone says, when's the bus coming? Someone else at the bus stop says, he says something like, he says, I totally blanked, I'm sorry. Someone else at the bus stop says, we might have to wait till Mashiach comes. Some comment like that. Meaning it's gonna be a long time. Yoel looks at him and says, Verstehe nicht. I don't understand what you're talking about. Mashiach's coming any second. What do you mean you have to wait a long time? Mashiach's coming any second. Guy looks at him, du bist der Lubavitcher? You're Lubavitcher? Okay, anyway. So a person might say like this, you're telling me the whole shlemus, the siyum, the completion, the pinnacle is when Mashiach comes, third Beis Hamikdash. What am I wasting my time doing today? I'm going around and around in circles. All day long. What am I doing b'chlal? The Mishkan didn't do it. The first Beis Hamikdash didn't do it. The second Beis Hamikdash didn't do it. I for sure ain't doing it. What's happening today? I don't want to say what's happening today. A whole lot of garnished. A whole lot of nothing's happening. So what am I wasting my time for? It's all the shleimus is at the third Beis Hamikdash. What about today? Today's nothing. So you might think mistakenly that since the shleimus is only when Mashiach comes, I might think that God forbid the mitzvahs I do today not so relevant. Not so relevant. Really, it's all about the third Beis Hamikdash. Today, that's what you might think, God forbid. You might think that what I do today is not so important. God forbid. Comes the Rambam on a deeper level and says, Nishlo Zaydera, the Rambam negates such a thought. The Adirabah, it's exactly the opposite. Belele Shabbos, ein b'yodam or, gewaltig. On Shabbos, they don't have light. Where do they get the light from? From candles that they lit on Erev Shabbos. It practically writes itself. You hear it?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Belele Shabbos ein b'yodam or. When Shabbos comes, they ain't got no light. They ain't got no mitzvahs. They ain't got no Torah. It's all about what they did on Erev Shabbos. Today, right now, right before Mashiach comes. Erev Shabbos, meaning when Mashiach actually arrives, God willing, it should be very speedily. Or they don't have any light. Ner mitzvah Torah. They don't have mitzvahs. They don't have Torah. Because by the time Mashiach comes, I'm sorry, what are you going to do now? So to speak. The light that will be when Mashiach comes, the light we're going to have when Mashiach comes is the light that we are bringing into the world today, Erev Shabbos, before Mashiach comes. That's going to be what brings us light on Shabbos, Yom Shekulo Shabbos, when Mashiach comes. Why did nobody fall out of your chair? This is unbelievable.
If this is a published Hasidic, it would just be this piece right here.
Fantastic. You hear how they introduced the Rambam? The Rambam was talking about Mashiach. And he's talking about today. That's why the conclusion is on Shabbos, when the Messianic era when Mashiach comes, when the Beis Hamikdash will be B'Shleimus. That's Shabbos. But don't worry, the only light that will be is from what you do today. July, whatever
Erev Shabbos.
day today is. Literally Erev Shabbos, Thursday night, going into Erev Shabbos. This gives us zeal and alacrity, and encouragement to put up the Mishkan within ourselves. This itself will bring the Mashiach, God willing, bring the Beis Hamikdash. So we did skip part of it. I'm sorry. I was actually, when I prepared the Sikha today, I actually thought we could do it, but sometimes I bite off more than I can chew. It takes time to, at least for me, go slowly a little bit. Questions, comments, did it make any sense? Questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, etc.?
Did you mention something about the fact it's, there was once the nickel part of it, like? You mentioned anything much? about it?
Well, there was a discussion about the angels, the mikdash.
No, but
Pinigla, the Rambam was just telling you, I did, telling you on Shabbos, they don't carry the avukah.
no,
Compare the two.
no, I'm saying like a question about why you brought that halacha, whatever.
Yes,
Why you
because
broke it up? Why you broke it into halacha?
That's only Shabbos, I don't know.
Well, because
After-
the last one is about Shabbat, the last one.
So did he ask like, why is the last one about Shabbos?
Well, and why isn't it part of the first, why isn't it part of the halacha Yud Aleph,
Right.
but not, why is it about Shabbat at all?
Okay.
I don't think that was.
Okay, we'll have to pause here.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's been upstairs, you get a menu?
Don't have. Thank you everyone for coming. We continue with